New Mexico stands out as a refreshingly different, spirited blend of arts, history, and lifeways found in few other places on Earth, and even beyond.
So for one Culture Pass challenge, we explored the New Mexico Museum of Space History. Take a look.
Hey guys, we are here at the New Mexico Museum of Space History, and we are going to take a walk through the past, present, and future of space technology. Let's go.
We start our celestial journey with Christopher Orwell, director of the New Mexico Museum of Space History.
Chris, tell us a little bit about this space museum here. This has been one of my favorite places to come to southern New Mexico since I was a kid.
Yep. Well, it came into existence in 1976. Some folks here from the Tularosa Basin who had worked in different aspects of the space program really had a desire to put together essentially a Hall of Fame at that point in time. That's what it started off, as a Hall of Fame to honor people from the space program from throughout the world, not just the United States. So it started off as the International Space Hall of Fame. Then over the years it morphed into a space museum. It was called the Space Center, and now the New Mexico Museum of Space History. And we deal with not only the inductees into the Hall of Fame, but also trying to tell the tale of how man flew into space.
Alamogordo is a crossroads for space history, which makes it the perfect location for a National Space Museum. Just up the road, Dr. Robert Goddard, who is considered by most as the father of modern rocketry, conducted numerous experiments in the deserts in and around Roswell. Just 30 miles outside of town, the White Sands Missile Range played witness to some of the most important developments in rocketry and space exploration. And many of the Apollo astronauts called southern New Mexico home as they prepared for their spacewalks. Among the most important individuals featured at the museum is Colonel John P. Stapp.
He was an individual, obviously, in the Air Force. He was a doctor, and then he joined the Air Force. He worked his way up to colonel, but he was the individual who was doing the key research for the Air Force on essentially what deceleration, stopping quickly. He started off in California with some of the testing on sleds, and then he came over here to Holloman, and they built a very large sled track, rocket sled track, out there that still exists and is still being used every week nowadays. But he started doing testing out there on what were the limits of human endurance. And so what he learned from the tests that he did on, harness systems for aircraft, eventually then he started working on cars as well. So the fact that we have 3-point seat belts these days and the harnesses that we have inside our cars to protect us is because of research that he did right out there at Holloman Air Force Base.
Wow.
And he was one of the founders of the museum here as well.
And the museum recognizes all pioneers in space exploration.
Another individual, so to speak, that is integral to our space history and is also a big part of the Space Museum here is Ham.
Yep.
Who is Ham?
Ham. Ham was a chimpanzee.
Okay.
And his name actually stands for Holloman Aerospace Medical. He was trained out here at Holloman Air Force Base, as were many other chimpanzees that were utilized in the space program. And these were the chimpanzees that kind of paved the way for Alan Shepard on his flight and John Glenn when he orbited the Earth. So the first, American, I guess you would say, that flew was not Alan Shepard, although he really was, but Ham, who actually flew on a Mercury ballistic space flight before Alan Shepard did. And then he came back, he landed after his 15-minute flight, and then eventually he lives in the National Zoo, but obviously also eventually he died. But after he died, he was brought here back to Alamogordo, New Mexico, and he's buried right out in the front of our museum, in front of the flagpoles out there. We have a very nice grave marker out there, and it's one of the fun things around here. Interestingly enough, we'll go out there sometimes and we find bananas that people have put down there right where the placard is for Ham's grave, and they're just doing it as a little bit of a tribute because, he was a key part of our space program as well.
For more information on the Culture Pass and how you can get involved, head over to casa.com and click on the Style tab.